Uh, any communications? There's any public here this evening? Can't see who's up there.
I don't see anybody.
Mallory, is that
Nicole.
Nicole? Okay.
Nicole.
Okay. Board correspondence. We had a letter from Wayne Rogers. I don't have it in front of me. Former area, or is he current? He's still current, correct? Current Area 6 Director endorsing Tory, I don't have it in front of me. Thurston. Oh, even better. That's why there's a packet. So if the board could take a look at that, that'd be great. I know we already voted. I believe we have to do it again. Is that, can you get your mic?
We need one vote for the entire board, or, I guess?
Ashley, if you want to clarify, you sent an email and there's one more time for it to be official. We picked one out of the two, and then. Yeah, we can do that in the September meeting. We got plenty of time, and I think.
I had conversation with the other guy. This is the lady from Saranac.
Yes.
I spoke with the guy from Plattsburgh, and he's very good. So I would like to vote for him, so I would recommend him. So I don't know. You got an email from him as well, no?
No, I got an email from Wayne Rogers.
You didn't see the email from him? Yeah, he did send
he might
something.
have.
Because the first time around, he only sent two short paragraphs, but it was just to get nominated. So it was not impressive, it was pretty dry. But he did send something that was substantive, and I really liked it. And I asked him a few questions, and I really liked the guy, so I would like to vote for him.
My understanding is that the ballot I received is that the board will have to come to whatever agreement for whoever the majority is to vote for one. So one vote based on
So we don't we don't have to vote now, but I would like
September.
you to reconsider that guy because I really like him. I also asked him questions, and he answered very well.
Okay. We'll kick that around in September meeting.
Thank you.
And hopefully there's 9. Information and reports. Any other board members have any information? Board president. So we have with Paul's exodus, we have a vacancy, and the investigation into that legally, we've determined that the seat cannot remain vacant. And I believe, if I'm correct, we have a 90-day window to fill the seat. And there are, I believe, 3 options that the board can take. Our board can appoint someone at our discretion. We can hold a special election. Or if we sit on it long enough, the district superintendent for BOCES, Darren Safe, would have to appoint one as the commissioner's representative. So let's talk about it.
I recommend we don't go to 3 or 2. So I recommend we go with 1. We appoint somebody.
Yes.
I'd like to recommend that we appoint the third highest vote getter from the previous election in May.
Mr. Goodfellow. We all right with that?
That would be fair since he got some votes and he's the one that showed interest in being on the board more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Except you two.
Okay, I mean, at the end of the day, he's already taken the initiative to go get petitions. He's walked around and got petitions. He stuck his neck out on the line to run.
He's the first one we should ask, yes.
Okay, excellent. I have reached out. He is interested. I just wanted to wait till we formally discussed everything and to make sure. But so we will have a. Do you want to take an action right now?
certainly can if somebody
Okay,
wants to make a
so
motion.
can we've got the motion. Is this a motion?
This is a motion.
I second.
Okay, any more further discussion? So all in favor to appoint Mr. Goodfellow to the vacant seat? Welcome aboard, Mr. Goodfellow. I'd also like to thank any and all of the public who has reached out in the interim of Paul's leaving the board, expressing interest. It's nice that other people express interest, and I thank them for their interest in the position, but, so,
And we probably would have gone to them if we didn't have
yes.
this guy. They would have been
Yeah.
next.
And this would be just until the end of this school year, and then at our May elections, we would have.
It's only until the May election. On the night
Right.
of the May election, I believe, that's, okay.
And I'd like to encourage those people who reached out to Kevin to run.
Yeah,
There's going to be 3 open seats, like you said,
Yeah.
just said.
Very good.
okay. Moving along, we have the revised board meeting schedule. Has everyone seen that? I sent the advisory committees as well. Okay, everybody has that. And discussing our Board of Education goals, we discussed we're going to keep things quite simple, but sort of quite large. First goal is district realignment, which is a large goal. And the second goal is an alumni website and an alumni engagement to attempt to keep connected with the alumni from Massena and hope that we can reach out to their resources of whatever they can provide us. And I, interestingly, I just heard about and I think this is I'm going to segue a little bit and get sideways. So there's a Massena alumni, a fellow who grew up in Massena, who's trying to bring a business back to Massena right now out at the mall because he wanted to bring something back to the community. So I think this provides this kind of shows the importance of continuing to reach out and stay connected to the alumni. There's a lot of people who've been successful at the school and have gone on to do good things, and maybe they could bring something back for us and help us out. So we've got a save the date for the Area 6 dinner for October 8th at the Malone Golf Course.
I'd like to just amend that because I just read the most recent update, and she said it's at the Malone Elks Club Lodge on Elm Street.
Okay.
No, she sent an email, said registration now is open.
We'll save the date, and supper will be to be determined. There was another issue I wanted to bring about to the board. There's a new exemption, tax exemption for combat disabled veterans that's being put out there right now, and it's kind of getting batted around back and forth, and I believe the current iteration is that our board would have to opt in to offer this for combat disabled veterans, which is a very specific requirement. So I've talked to Ron a little bit about it, and I'd like to investigate that and what it would entail and come back. It's still being, like I said, iterated and discussed, and I believe it wouldn't take effect anyway until October 1st of 26 for those roles. So I would hope we could get some information and take a gander at it at our September meeting. I think it's a very worthwhile endeavor. You know, we recently celebrated our 250th, you know, anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, and in having a conversation with my son, he might get me a little choked up, but the Marines, the Army, and the Navy celebrated 250 the year before because they gave up to get this to that point where we can have representative government. So I'd like to see it happen.
I would just like to ask, when we're researching it, does it apply to surviving spouses? That would be my question.
We can look into that. I didn't see that in the information that I saw, but it might be in there. It's a good point. Okay, reports from administration.
So I'm going to turn it right over to Assistant Superintendent Flynn, and she'll review our goals data from the prior school year, and then also give us an update on where we're going to be for this new school year.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Burke. Mr. Lincoln, can you actually place the other chart up of the data, please, first? Perfect, thank you so much. So in order to know where we're going, it's important to see where are we now and where have we been. And so this should look very familiar by this time. We're on year 3 of our 5-year goal setting. We will continue to focus on the ABC goals of attendance, of reducing chronic absenteeism, benchmarks, increasing our proficiency of 3 through 8 assessments and New York State Regents, and our climate and culture survey from our staff and our students. So there is a hard copy in front of you. I know sometimes on the computer screen it can be a little difficult to see all of the numbers. But for the previous 25-26 school year, our goal, I'm actually going to start with 7-12. For 7-12, our goal was to have our chronic absenteeism at 24.4%. And as you know, there was a plan put in place that students needed to be in school in order to receive credit. And we saw a significant gain in student attendance and decrease in chronic absenteeism. Students were coming to school, receiving the course credit. And so our 7-12 data, our goal was, to be at 29%, and we were at 24.4%, which is basically saying we were 4.6% better than our goal, and that is both junior high and high school. So we have really been celebrating that. That is, as you know, a needle we have been trying to move for years at the 7-12 secondary level. And so it's really important that we see that accountability piece. When students are held to high expectations, they do show, right? So the reason I wanted to do the 7-12 first is for that reason of accountability. When you look at K-6, we unfortunately did not meet our goal. We were 4.1% away from meeting our goal. And what I'd like to say there is it is no lack of trying. Our building principals, our social workers, our counselors, our teachers, they are in constant communication with families, trying to give supports, trying to get students to school. And what I will say is there is truly no accountability at the primary level. And so that's really what we're missing. We're lacking at that level. We will continue to work with families, but I really would love this as basically a public statement to families. Please work with the schools and get students here. So that is our attendance. So again, really happy with our secondary, continuing to work on our primary and elementary. Joyce?
Nicole, so that's saying that 25% of the student population grades 1 through 6 is absent more than 18 days?
Correct,
With no
yes.
accountability?
Correct, yes.
With no accountability?
Yes, so you're right, chronic absenteeism is 10%, so by the end of the school year, that's 18 days. And as you know, what we did this year, we really focused on what we considered our level 2, our yellow students.
Mm-hmm.
They were our kids that were kind of right on the cusp, but 1 or 2 days would have meant they were not chronically absent. Mm-hmm. So again, it's not lack of effort of our staff, it's not lack of trying, and we will continue those partnerships with families to get kids here.
And I understand it's not for lack of trying. I do understand that
Yeah.
very much. is there any statewide initiative or ideas from other schools we can get?
So Attendance Works is a national program, and they put out weekly and monthly newsletters. We often take things like that and we put them in our newsletters. We've been working with our communications specialist and creating basically monthly reminders of the importance of attendance. So as far as I think what you're asking about was accountability, and I have heard nothing on that front.
Yeah.
You know, an interesting, it just dawned on me that from grades 7 to 12, the student has some responsibility to get to school.
Yes.
And they are incentivized now to go to school because it affects their outcomes and their extracurricular opportunities or sports. And unfortunately, the grades 1K through 6, those students don't really have that ability, and it's unfortunate that their parents are falling behind in that regard, because that's really where it needs to point to. And I don't know how you change it. I'm just making an observation.
Bruce?
I just have a thought. Well, I'm pretty hot here. I have a thought regarding that because we've talked a lot about parents and the institution, and I know it's a little sensitive because, you know, if a child is sick and they feel like, I got to come to school, we don't want that to happen, right? But on the other hand, there may be opportunity to engage the child. And I don't know if you show any charts that anything's posted, like at Nightingale School when you come in. We had 50 or, you know, 83% yesterday. Let's shoot for 84 next week or whatever. If there's somehow we can get it into the children's interest, I think that would be really beneficial.
So we do highly publicize at all 5 of our buildings. This started as a goal 3 years ago. So within our TV monitors throughout the hallway, we have things. They have classroom awards, they have building awards, they have student awards. They've started the awards. They were doing quarters, now they're doing months. So the incentives are there, the conversations are there. Unfortunately, the needle went the wrong way than we were hoping. But yes, those things are happening. And just for alignment, when I start talking, I think 2 months, I'll share some AIS information that Danielle Chapman used to share out. But what I tried to do was look at our chronic absenteeism students and then our tiered students of our intervention, and that was pretty interesting as well. So tier 3, as you know, is our highest level of intervention support, and in ELA, 31% of students that are chronically absent are in tier 3 and 26% are in tier 2. And then what really stood out to me was tier 3 math was 49%. So almost half of our students that are chronically absent, or I'm sorry, that are tier 3 are chronically absent. And if you think about math instruction, right? Like, I mean, it really, you miss information and it builds upon rather than ELA being more holistic in nature. So tier 3, it was 49% for math, and tier 2, 29%. So it really is telling, right, when you're here and you're learning.
That information would be nice to share with parents.
Yes,
saying
yeah,
that
that's
if
the
your kids,
intent. Yeah, I
your math gonna
just
struggle.
put it together and just thought it fit the conversation. But yes, that it will be in our newsletters. Yeah, for sure.
So just one more thing, I'm
Yeah.
trying to help, I know you're doing what sounds like you're right on top of it, but maybe the method, if there's a TV screen, that may not be as effective as some other way to communicate it. And, you know, I know, I've been in the industry forever, and there are ways to communicate things, and then there's really effective ways to communicate. And so, I mean, maybe a living board or so, I mean, there's got to be, there may be an opportunity to brainstorm and say, how can we make this bigger than it is than just a screen or a piece of paper that says we.
So we do have bulletin boards also, and within classrooms in the buildings outside, you'll see like the letter attendance, and they get certain letters. So what you're describing, the brainstorm, I promise it's happening, and the building principals are leading the charge in their building. And it's constant conversation, it's constant efforts, it's that positive reinforcement. We use Title I funding for family engagement and attendance initiatives. So all great ideas, and I appreciate and thank you. I also just want to, again, say staff is really brainstorming, working together for new ideas. So I know it will continue for sure. They want kids here too.
So Nicole, just a point of clarification, did we have Raider Academy this past school year?
Yes, we've had Raider Academy, and we
Okay.
will continue to have elementary Raider Academy. We just did not have summer Raider Academy. So
Okay.
our after-school Raider Academy is built within our district budget. We originally used COVID funds, but then the board approved using the general fund. So even though you're hearing things at the state level, we will continue Raider Academy, yes.
Okay, so did we receive funds in the past? Like, I was reading in the paper, it said there were 5-year grants and that there were a number of districts in the North Country that were not going to receive renewal for the
To
grants.
my knowledge, we have not received that
Okay.
grant funding in the past.
Okay.
Massena was never part of that grant.
Okay.
And we will publicize, I know that's a conversation that's happening in our community. Raider Academy does not start right away, so we will, as it gets closer, we will publicize, we will get that out through Parent Square and make sure everyone knows that we will continue elementary Raider Academy.
Okay, very good.
Okay, so on to B, benchmarks, our goal at the 3 through 8 ELA proficiency. So if you're not familiar, the 3 through 8 has 4 levels. Proficiency is level 3 and level 4. So our goal for grades 3 through 8 ELA, our goal was 49%. We were very close at 48% proficient, so we were just 1% away from that. And then our district goal for 3 through 8 math was 61%, and we actually hit that right on target at 61%. Another thing that we're pretty excited about at the secondary level, which really ties to the attendance piece, our proficiency rate of the New York State Regents, and this is all regions averaged together, was 74%, and we exceeded this at 76%. And again, I will share, as I have in the past, that November board meeting will go into full detail. The results are slowly released over the summer, but they are embargoed. You can't really share details until they do what they call summer cleanup. And then we also have to wait for our Beds Day in October for all the enrollment data. So that's why that all this information we go into further detail in November. And finally, C, climate culture of staff and students. So we have kept this goal, and it's highly important, but what I will say is when you work with a goal, you look for goals, targets, and you want the tool to be the same, so you're comparing data apples to apples. Unfortunately, our climate culture tool comes from BOCES, and they've actually changed the tool for a third time. It runs through a McKinney-Vento grant. They have a certain allotment of funding, and when they were writing their grant, instead of purchasing a consultant for the climate survey, they created a survey in-house and then reallocated the funding to student needs otherwise, which is completely understandable, and we are thankful that BOCES continues to work with McKinney-Vento and provide this climate survey. But what I will say is these results are somewhat skewed. You will notice they are much higher. The way that the data was given to us was not per se in the red, yellow, green that we've had before, where we had the red were the risk factors and the green were the assets. So we tried to put a scale on it of the red, yellow, green, and what you will notice is a very high number of the yellow and greens and very little of the red. So again, obviously we're happy that it looks like on paper we've met all of our climate goals, but I will say it is a different tool. What's important for the information, though, just so you know the process, is we get district-wide information, but we also get climate survey from each building, from staff, students, family, and that goes to the building principal, and they do analyze that and take a look at that with their staff. And what we continue to see as the 2 highest risk factors, they are surrounded by student behaviors impeding learning. And that's not surprising. That's been a theme for the past few years as well. Any questions on the previous year's data? Okay, so the next document is the new school year 26-27 district goals. I will not go through all of it because it's basically taking the information that I just shared with you, and we're going to the next row, which is the upcoming school year, and we are continuing to focus on attendance, benchmark, and climate. And so for the 26-27 school year, we're looking to be at 20% chronically absent in the elementary and 27% at the secondary. And then our benchmark, we are looking to be at 51% for ELA, 62% for math for 3 through 8, and then 75.5 for the regents. And the climate culture goal for staff, we're looking to be at 40% assets, 60% risks, and 15% assets and 85% risks. And as in the past, the district goals, they list the things that we are continuing to do. And so each page goes into further detail, and that's linked in your agenda if you'd like to take a look.
Quick question. Is there a school that's way worse than the elementary school? In fact,
Meaning for attendance or?
elementary.
I don't have comparable data per se with buildings, but there is statewide information out there. It usually shares by district. And if you remember a couple years ago, Rural Schools had put out a pretty lengthy research paper stating that rural schools really hover around that. I think it was like a 35% chronically absent rate. So at that time, we knew we were somewhat similar to schools that are like us. And those are our goals. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Well done. The next item is rather quick. It's just an announcement that the J.W. Leary Field Experience trip will be to Washington, D.C., and that'll take place May 12th through the 15th. I just want to give a really quick update on the district realignment work that's been taking place this past week, Monday or Tuesday. I can't remember the weeks. Monday. We met for about 4 hours and had a very productive day. And again, Nicole led that for us and did a great job. And in groups, we went through, each group was assigned 2 options of the 6 options that were presented. And at the end of the afternoon, or at the end of the session, we came up with 2 options. Option E is the option of choice. And option E, for those that may not recall, is the alignment where we would have 3 elementary schools. The first elementary school would be grades pre-K through 1. A second elementary school would be grades 2 through 3. The third would be grades 4 and 5. The junior high would consist of grade 6 and 7, and then we'd have high school, which would now include grades 8 through 12. That gives us a pretty solid equal number of students around the elementary levels as well as the junior high. The second most popular option was very similar to that, and I'll just go, the second option was option F, and that is pre-K and kindergarten in 1 school, grades 1 and 2, grades 3 and 4 would be the third school, grades 5 through 7 would be at the junior high, and still 8 through 12 at the high school. A few things to think about as we continue down this path over the next few weeks is both options that came out on top require that grade 8 would come here to the high school. That's very workable in the future. Right now, as we are going to begin the capital project, hopefully sometime in January or February, we need swing space. And by swing space, I mean we're going to be shutting down a wing at a time. And that's going to put a real damper in terms of space allotment just for our current 9 through 12. So again, this process has been very good. I think we have a good product to bring to the board for further consideration, for the board then to have community involvement but probably with the understanding that if we're really going to go with this, it's all predicated on grade 8 coming here. This could kick that down the road for about 3 years until the project finishes in the summer of '29. May not be a bad thing. That also gives families, because there are concerns, we've heard them back in 2018 when this was first ventured. We're going to hear some of those similar concerns, but this gives us an opportunity for planning to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row. It also gives time for families to figure out, does this really work, and how can I make things work? So again, we may have to move this down the road. Nicole and I have also talked about option E versus option F, and we support option E, I think, from the angle that, yes, we can do this. Option F is a little bit tougher, where we try to put 3 grades at the junior high for 2 reasons. Number one, it becomes very cramped with our current space. The second issue that I have as an ad hoc bus driver is I'm not sure that I can throw 2 extra grade levels into the 7-12 run. To try to do 5 through 12 all in one run, I'm not sure that I can do that. I wasn't thinking about putting that many students necessarily there. So we're going to have to do a little more study with that. But again, the number one option from the committee, it looks very doable on paper.
Option E also puts 3 grade at the elementary level. So it's going to be crowded also for 3 grade, no?
Nope. So
Pre-K,
Yep.
kindergarten, and first?
because our pre-K is typically small, so what this actually does, it would put 375 children at the pre-K building, 325 at the grades 2 and 3 building, and then 345 at the grades 4 and 5 building. And what's also nice about that is at the junior high, it keeps the number fairly consistent, 335. So in those first 4 buildings, the numbers are all in that low to mid 300 range. So, and again, there'll be a lot more that we're going to have to talk about as at the board level, and figure out, how to get this back out to the community and get feedback.
So, Ron, part of the reason for doing the stacking of the schools was financial for the district. Are we okay to wait that long?
The honest answer is probably not, in terms of doing something, okay? But the realignment portion, I think we have to do the realignment portion well, because we're talking about the education as well, and if we don't do this well, the whole thing is going to fall apart.
Yes.
There are other ways, I think, that we can handle the economics, okay? We'll talk more about enrollment numbers here in the near future. But folks, it's not good. There's no other way to put this. We're beginning now to see the true effects that the rest of rural New York State has been experiencing. This year, right now, as of this morning, our kindergarten enrollment is 113 children.
What's normal or usual?
Last year, we had a little over 130.
Oh, that's it?
Yep. But again, keep in mind, though, we're graduating classes of 160 to 180, 190. We're losing children. Right now, our total enrollment for next year stands at 2,348 kiddos. That's almost a decline of about 75 to 80 students. So and when we look at where our top numbers are, our top numbers really are from grades 6 through grade 12. As those top numbers, those larger classes graduate, our census is just going to keep going down. We saw the effect of it this year with foundation aid. We were just slightly over hold harmless in terms of getting that 2%. Will we see a 2% next year for foundation aid? I'm highly doubting it. In speaking with folks at NISBA, what we're hearing around from some of our advocacy groups is hold tight. We don't know where this is all going to land. We're not sure what the economy is going to look like. So to your point, Joyce, we may very well have to make some choices. And I spoke with Kevin a little earlier today, and I think that the Finance Committee needs to begin our work much earlier this year. We need to be thinking, okay, where do we, what is our financial situation today? How much did we spend or save from last year? Where are the big increases? We know them. I hate to sound like a repeated broken record, but health insurance is going to be a big increase. We're not going to see 2% and 3% increases. I'm quite confident of that. We're also going to continue to see increases in special education costs. So how can we predict those? Where can we make some choices? So Joyce, one of the things that when we look at that study from 2018, the consultant indicated, based on those 2018 numbers, there could have been consolidation. There could have been reduction in staffing through attrition. For 7 years, 8 years now, we have not done that. We're staying the same with our classrooms. As we look at a kindergarten class of 113, if that number doesn't change, if we have retirements, that's a good opportunity to say, how can we redo this? The hard part is, and someone's going to say, well, and we start looking at our class inequity. Jefferson's bursting at the seams at many of our grade levels. The other two schools may not be. So somebody can say, well, just move children from Jefferson over to one of the other schools. Well, that's kind of what we're talking about with our realignment. It's that same kind of an idea, right? So we have it's weird to think we've got a space problem when our numbers are going down, but Robert's pointed it out before. We have support staff for related services, vital jobs that are being done, working out of closets. And so how can we fix this? So I think we have, the way I'm looking at this, we're in a healthy financial situation right now. We're not like many of the other schools, like, if we don't get our foundation aid next year, what's going to happen? I look at this as Massena, we are very fortunate because of good financial planning over the past several years under Mr. Brady. We now can control our destiny. We can determine how we're going to answer any potential economic impact and also how we're going to answer our declining enrollment, all at the same time. If we look at this as an opportunity of us shaping our future, rather than having to make knee-jerk reaction decisions because we just don't have money, we're actually in a pretty good spot if we take it as that opportunity. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be tough. There's going to have to be some sacrifices made over time. But again, I think we can control that and really come out strong.
So last year, Joyce, to talk kind of general and broad numbers, we got in the neighborhood of 900,000 foundation aid. I believe that's correct. Correct?
Yep, about that.
Whatever that constitutes for percentages and hold harmlesses doesn't matter. I believe our contractual raises for staff was 1.2 in that neighborhood. So that's minus 300 just for that item. And that doesn't, I don't know if that constitutes, if health insurance and everything else is baked into that, but so this is the first time in a very, 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 very long time that I can recall that we're actually running into a deficit. We've been doing everything, any addition that we've made in the last quite a few years has been done through increases in our state aid. Most of those, or many of those increases were the result of the previous recession in 2009 and the gap elimination adjustment, which was alphabet jargon for we're not going to give you what we owe you for foundation aid coming from the state. So they withheld the money that they owed us to operate our operation aid and foundation aid. So we were basking in that payback, which was 15 years later, 14, 12, 15 years later, whatever it is. We're all done those paybacks. And consequently, our enrollment is dropping into the basement. The state's financial position isn't the best. We can't expect anything coming from the state. The only solution is going to happen at this table. That's the only place the solution's going to come from. To find the best model, to find the best way that we can conduct our business, provide a free and appropriate public education. And at the end of the day, unfortunately, the only real savings in a school district comes with reduction in staff. That's the only move that really makes a difference, because raising taxes 1% only generates about $148,000. Yeah, and because of where we're at. So, you know, it's to maintain the status quo. I don't know how much longer it's an option. That's why I talked to Ron today, like I'm really interested in, no pressure, Mallory, but how did we close the books? That's a big benchmark with school boards in understanding your budgets. If you're in the finance side of things, is how did you end the year? Because that tells you what the reality of your previous budgeting season was. Did you spend your appropriated fund balance? Did you not spend your appropriated fund balance? Did you put money away that you didn't realize, and then understanding why? So it sort of gives you a forecast and a window into the following year. And we know we're going to be up against it. So, I mean, I don't like the way things are looking down the road, and I'm looking for things sooner than later. I'm a little bit bummed at this push off on this change, because I think this change was really going to allow us to streamline our model and our staffing. And I was really hopeful that we would get a lot of educational benefits out of it as well, as far as really putting resources where they belong. And that's what's going to come out of it, I believe. But time will tell. But anyway.
That's my
Sorry
concern.
for that.
I guess, no, and I understand everything that you're saying. I understand it all. Did we do the right thing in choosing these models where it's essentially pushing everything back 3 years? Do we need to relook at it for that reason, because of the financial burden?
I think I can't speak for Ron, but I mean, I'm never gonna leave it alone. I don't want to see the financial position we're in now go away or change to the negative or really bad because we were afraid to make decisions.
Oh, I understand.
And
We can make it just a different decision.
You know, we're going to have to make decisions, and it's going to affect people. And it's unfortunate, but it's the position that we're in, and it ebbs and it flows. And I've seen it in my time here. We can't do nothing. And we're going to have to figure out what the interim looks like. I'm hoping there's creative solutions that we'll hear of later, but I don't think this is going away.
No.
So even if you look at 10 years down the road, there's no crystal ball, but there are models. There are probably economic indicators that would suggest that we're going to be this much more shrunk than we are right now. There are models out there with Edward Knox, Colton Pierpont, where there was combinations, and so that may end up as options to how we run our school district in the future. If you have to do some combination or expand our reach for students, I don't know what that would look like, but there's probably some effort that would have to go into that as well to consider, combining school districts.
I would say that it is highly likely that in the next 5 years, you're going to see some of that happening in St. Lawrence County. I don't know, maybe Ron knows more than me.
Look, the state threw an incredible amount of money this year in terms of reorganizational aid. And we see that, and we've gone through the numbers with Questar in terms of who your dance partner is from the region. So for Massena, we have 4 dance partners, and that means schools that we have a shared border with. But then you have to look at tax rates, tax levies, all of those types of things, and that eliminates 1 or 2 of those schools from being considered as part of a merger. We do have one very viable school district. And the amount of money that gets paid out over the 15 years of the reorg aid is not inconsequential. You know, for us in that other school, we'd be looking at somewhere around $8 to $10 million per year, and it kind of gradually decreases, I think, after year 5 or so, down to a 0. So we sit back and we think, okay, what does that look like? And it's the M word. And trust me, living in Canton, when we had this M conversation with, of all places, Potsdam, sorry, Nicole, it was, I mean, we were mortal enemies, right? How in the world could we do this? And it was because we talked about mergers. I honestly don't know how we're not going to have some of these conversations in the future, even being the biggest district in the county. At least to say, hey, we looked at it, we talked about it, didn't work. Or no, we talked about it, we went as far as we could, and it still didn't work. It just wasn't for us. But I think, Bruce, what you're talking about is we've got to be bold in terms of discussions. And we can't be afraid of having these discussions, because if we don't know what solutions are out there that we haven't thought about. What we've heard from our folks that did the data analysis, the reorg aid was great last year, and a couple of schools have around the state kind of bid on that to do the merger studies. Will the aid for reorganization get even greater down the road? And what does it really mean to merge? There are many districts around the state that have 2 or more high schools, multiple elementary schools. Does it mean that we truly have to merge all of our kiddos together? Or does it mean you can have maybe 2 high schools? One high school is, with that, especially now as we talk about Portrait of a Graduate, truly focused on maybe the arts. And another school is really truly focused on CTE or liberal arts, whatever it might be. And all of a sudden now we're kind of competing with the Southern Tier where, gee, kids have choices. I can go to a center of excellence that's all about the fine arts, or a center of excellence that's all about tech ed. And then I can go back home at the end of the day and put on my Raider uniform. I think that there are opportunities here. Again,
It's not much different than a kid going to BOCES that goes back to their home school. They go get
Exactly.
educated, they go back to their home school.
I mean, if it means a merger as corporate entities, and we can be creative after that of how we educate our kids, maybe that's something that we should be considering and at least exploring. What does that really look like? Again, I think we have an opportunity, right? The economic outlook, I'm pessimistic, because if I'm optimistic and I'm wrong, we're in bad shape, right? So it's just my nature to be pessimistic on the economy. So, but we've got an opportunity. We can really reshape this, and I'm hoping that other boards, and I know a couple are having this conversation already.
Are we courting our dance partner, or just, have we even asked them out on a date yet or anything? We talking? I guess that's the...
Officially, no.
No.
Okay. However, again, knowing, because like I said, I lived through this as a resident and a parent, and I know my visceral reaction was, never will my daughter wear blue and orange. Okay, sorry. So I know what that reaction is. So these are conversations we have to have very gently. Have I spoken to that superintendent? Yes. As soon as we saw these numbers that day, many of us were in a meeting together, and I went right to this individual and I said, look, what do you think? And at first, like, well, maybe. And I was shocked, because I wasn't really expecting that. Here's the other thing, folks. I'm getting old. I'm nearing the end. I've been here in education. This is my 32nd or 33rd year. Time is coming to a close here. We've got to start taking bold actions. I've said this at the superintendent's meeting too. Many of us are getting near that. If we don't do this, and I know there's a political fallout, if we don't do it, we're setting up the next generation of superintendents for failure. It's the old guard, myself being one of them. We have to be at the forefront of these conversations, because these aren't popular conversations out in the community. They're not popular conversations with our families, but they're honest conversations. So if you would like me to formally talk with the best potential dance partner, I'm more than happy to do that. Again, it's another option that would go along with the realignment and get more information about what does that look like. And again, I don't want to cause panic on two front chairs. The first panic right now, as soon as Mr. Beckstead reports on this, that the M word came out at the Massena board meeting, we're going to have a lot of flack. It's an idea. It's not one I'm promoting, but I don't think that until we actually talk about it, we know the answers to those questions. The second one is, again, 3 decades in education. Almost half of that was in the classroom during terrible economic times in the late 90s and the early 2000s, and Trish probably remembers some of those. I remember wondering at the start of every year, hearing the superintendent talk about the sky is falling, the sky is falling. I don't know who's going to be left standing at the end of the year. Folks, and I want to reassure our staff here at Massena, we're not talking about right now, knowing what we know, we're talking about not massive layoffs. What we're hoping to do is, as we can, through attrition, reducing our workforce. Where we can, where it makes sense educationally, and where it makes sense because somebody is leaving the district on their own accord. I don't want our staff, who is one of the best educational staffs in the North Country, to come in on September wondering, gee, am I going to get that layoff notice this year? Again, we're not there. I'm hoping we don't get there, but that's not how we're entering the year. We're talking about let's be responsible, identify where we can possibly reduce, when we can possibly reduce, and in a very intelligent way that benefits our students and doesn't do any harm.
The couple things to add to that, to consider if you're thinking about the geography of where Massena sits. We can only expand or dance or court in a couple directions. We can't head north. So we're geographically bound by the river. Something to consider. We're also probably the only district in St. Lawrence County right now that is not merged for sports. Everybody else is. I don't think there's any other district that's not merged for one sport or another. Third thing, the kids don't care. The kids are already merged through social media. It's the adults that are going to have the problem. All things to consider moving forward. And as far as the finances and the path to right sizing, you're much better off to go down a gentle slope than to fall off a cliff. And that's the reason to start talking now, not when you're broke. Because when you're broke is when the drastic decisions start to happen. So we're planning ahead.
Can I backtrack just a little bit? And I'm sorry for that. Back to the ad hoc committee, so I was there. We came up with 2 very viable, we thought, plans. And now afterward, we're hearing, well, you know, we kind of can't do that because we have to wait 3 years now. Are we going to be okay financially? Because a lot of this is, I know it's not educational value, I know that. But now we're talking.
There might be.
Yeah.
There might be.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Are we
it
going to
is.
be okay to wait those couple of years? Or should we have chosen another option? We didn't know this at the time. We didn't know, oh, okay, if we pick one where one of the plans where 8 through 12 goes into the high school, it's not going to happen right away.
Right, and we really didn't give that as a parameter of this is going to happen in 1 year or 3 years down the road. We can certainly bring people back together and see, is there
a transition plan, like a temporary move followed by another move?
And I think that becomes a little bit challenging too, because how many
moves do you make?
moves, you know?
Yeah.
But to that point, Joyce, I still think outside of not necessarily, we may not get to the educational, instructional benefit for a couple of years. Again, I think that there's a way where through attrition, we can start to reduce some staffing if need be, and if the numbers keep holding. If we see, again, another group of incoming children at kindergarten that's in the low 100s, the writing's on the wall, right? That there's an opportunity to begin seeing some reduction naturally as we can.
Okay. You good with that, Trish?
I really think the two alternatives that were discussed, I mean, personally, in my group, we did a different model. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. I really do think, because of the capital project, we have to do what we have to do to finish the capital project. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. If classroom areas can be used at the high school, then it should be, because then you're not displacing your high school students. And we just saw, you know, and I'll give all credit to the high school principal too. We just saw a really great stat. Like, that's such good news. Everything is looking very positive, so why would you go and revisit something else and then not move forward with this? I don't think it needs to be revisited. I think what we're going to have to do is be creative in making this capital project get finished as quickly as it can without affecting the high school students. I think that's super important. Also, you know, all of the initiatives, and I think the ABC initiative has been very effective, and it has given people targets that even if they don't meet them, at least they're striving toward a goal, and that's always a positive thing, because then it's measurable. And, you know, that gives you some sort of satisfaction because you feel like you have some control instead of not knowing where we are and you're in the middle of the woods. I do think that in order to make either E or F work, it's really going to take another capital project probably to revitalize this wing. It could be smaller, maybe it could be one of the ones that we use from our own budget, from the contingency budget. That would be really great, but all of these things are kind of moving parts right now, and as Kevin said, we're going to have to take a hard look at our finances and then come up with something. I think the way that we did the budget process this year without having building principals give wish lists, that they said, these are, you know, the necessities that we really need, and then these are the things that, you know, and they were very flexible, and I think we did a really good job on that budget. I think they're going to get tougher, and people are going to have to say, what can I really do? How can I be creative? And, you know, I know teachers, myself included, when I was teaching, very territorial. Well, you might have to share spaces, and you might have to do things that you haven't done before. And, you know, we might have to rearrange things so that people can fit and not be in closets. As Ron said, this decrease for the kindergarten enrollment, of course, is not good news, but we can't, there's nothing we can do to affect that. So I don't see the point in going back and revisiting. I think what we should do instead is say, okay, this is our end goal, this is our destination. What can we do in the interim to push us toward that goal without disrupting classrooms and
our financial situation.
and our financial, yeah.
So it's tough to say this, but this is just something that churns in me, and it always has. First of all, we got an $80 million budget for 2,400 kids, that's $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
Come a long ways from a one-room schoolhouse, right? You know, that's a lot of money. And I know that's the way everybody else is doing it. We're probably as good or better than any other school district around or whatever, but I mean, just because somebody's jumping off a bridge doesn't mean we need to be. But one thing that's we've grown to or matured to, I think, is so many offerings. And I hear cases all the time where there's one teacher or one adult connected with one student for the whole day. And I'm going, how can we justify that? And I don't want to, if it's really working and if it's that powerful where we can transform a child from a one-on-one situation, that's one thing. But you talked about measurability, Trish. 40 years, 50 years ago, I'm dating myself, when I was in high school, that didn't happen, I don't think. I don't think there was ever one-on-one. There was onus on the children, on the students, to have to step up, And I know there's a balance. We're living in a different world now than we were 50 years ago, but perhaps we've swung too far. I don't know. Just some thoughts, and I think they're healthy thoughts. I think we need to be considering, the reality of, that cost of one-on-one sort of thing, or one-on-two.
I will jump in and just say what you're describing is a decision made by the Committee of Special Education, one-to-one aides, teacher aides. We don't have one-to-ones in any other circumstance except for special education. So we've really been working with that department and asking in which situations, because least restrictive environment is not a one-to-one aid, right? So really, can this child be successful if it was a 3-to-1 aid, meaning 3 students, 1 adult, 5 students, a 5-to-1? And I believe when we look at realignment, it would allow us to have even better conversations about that as well. And what's interesting about the number of our teacher aides, and I'm trying to compile some data with HR right now, is the number of aides that have increased over time because of behaviors, but we have, perhaps unknowingly, added staff with teacher aides, and now we're at a number that really could be lower if we looked at things differently. So I'm in complete agreement with you. It's just right now, when the Committee of Special Education determines a one-to-one, legally we are bound to provide that one-to-one. But that is not least restrictive, and we would like to do that differently for the success of the child.
I know about all the subcommittees, but I don't know how often the Finance Committee meets. Are they meeting monthly?
Finance?
Yeah.
No, but we meet typically in the time that I've, 17, 18 years. We typically meet in the fall when we start the budget process. And then we meet until we develop a budget. Then we usually stop. I just called Ron today and said, we need to have a finance meeting for when we close the books. I'm not going to sit around, wait. He and I have talked about it. I'm ready to change things.
Increase the frequency?
Yes.
To monitor
yes.
schools.
Yes. So we're going to have this meeting, and then we're going to make a decision. And we'll report out, and you'll know more after the next meeting when we report out.
Thank you. And the last item that I had on my portion is the SRO contract for the second SRO, which was part of the budget process. And as I had indicated, the village does have a selection of the candidate made, and this individual, the contract is for up to $152,000 and change, and it is going to be prorated because the individual won't be starting until the 1st of September officially. So when you look at the contract, which I think everyone had a copy of, there's actually a mistake in that portion. I spoke with the mayor late this afternoon about it because it does not refer to the prorated. It talks about starting on September 1 and ending on June 30th, and it gives up to that 152. I said, oh, we don't have that prorated word in there. He agreed it's not there. So what I would actually suggest, unless people want to change that tonight, that they would accept it if it says prorated, or we can table for our next meeting when I can actually have the actual language. I think Kevin will be talking a little bit later about coming up with a date for a special board meeting. I know Ashley sent something out, but we didn't get a lot of responses for next week So we're trying to figure out a date in the next 7 to 10 days to have a special board meeting. So we could kick this down the road to that if that's the board's preference, so you can see the exact language, so you have confidence that that prorated language is there. If that's okay
I
with the
recommend
board.
that. Yeah.
I mean, I'm okay with that, but I'm okay, I mean, there were two things that I highlighted in the contract, because everything else is pretty much standard, the same as what we currently have. And it was 3.2, not to exceed $152,662, that's fine. And then the other was 11.0, the term of agreement is 1 year commencing July 1, which obviously we've already exceeded.
Right.
And ending June 30th, 2027. So, I mean, if it's okay with everybody else, I would like to just recommend an amendment that we don't agree to this if it doesn't say prorated for the current 2026. But I was wondering, Ron, when will he actually start if we do approve his contract?
Okay, so I won't tell you that he started yesterday by being here for the back-to-school event, meeting kids, and also at the night out event. So he would be willing to, he'd be able to start, we hope, on September 1.
Okay.
I had to let Officer Flynn know some of the stuff today too as well, because like, okay, it's ready to go in terms of having the officer here. Officer Flynn indicated that there might be some materials that we still have, that the village will still have to find, or, you know, to secure for the officer to be here. But our hope is that he would be here starting on September 1, when our faculty comes back, so they could get to meet him, and then also get him out into the 3 buildings on those 2 opening days, so he can kind of mingle around, and then really be here on the opening day with the students.
So do we have space for him for an office?
We do. So he would be so Detective Flynn will be stationed here at the high school, and Detective Flynn's primary responsibility would be the high school and Nightingale, and the other officer would have the SRO space that's currently at the junior high. That would be the central location, and then also responsible for Madison and Madison and Jefferson. Again, we know that Officer Flynn, and I'm assuming probably the new officer, may very well be responsible for duties of taking children to a facility as needed. So we'd still have one officer staying back, which is something we don't currently have.
Well, I would be in favor of just accepting it with the addendum that it would be prorated to September 1, and then voting on it. So that's my motion.
So do you mean voting on it tonight or table?
Voting on it tonight.
Okay.
I would prefer
Contingent
that
upon-
he is on board and on staff and hits the ground running on September 1st.
I would too, because Detective Flynn is getting very nervous about not having a second officer here. And not because of any threat, but just because the workload is, it's very, very strong. Actually, Joyce, you were still down in the gym yesterday, and I happened to be out here at the end of the back to school. Folks, I'm going to tell you, this money is, it's more than security. There was a high school student who does not have it easy. The minute the eyes connected between Officer Flynn and this high school student, the hug was incredible. And the look, and what this student was saying to Officer Flynn about what she had done, what she planned on doing. There you go. That's all the proof I needed. I'm sitting there and I said to the other officer, I said, that's what we expect from you. It's those connections that they're making. It's not about somebody in blue wearing a gun who's offering security. They're going well above and beyond. And the parent or the family member was also there. And that interaction was, you could tell it was one of gratitude, just because there's been that connection and that change.
Well, think about it this way. How many police officers are there in Massena? How many are employed by the police department? if there's 8, 25% of our population is in the schools. That's where all the people are, 25%, 2,400 people plus teachers.
Yep.
It makes sense. That's where we should have presence.
And it's really that community policing idea. They're integrated right into the school. They're integrated with, I've seen a lot of magic happen with staff over the 30 years. But the amount of magic that I see happen with Officer Flynn, it's pretty remarkable to think that here's a guy who may very well have placed a family member in handcuffs, and yet they're still asking for his support with people in their family. That's pretty telling. Our SRO is, I'd say he's very unique, and I think the other SRO, if we take him, is going to provide that same uniqueness. And it's not just because they are cops. There's just something different.
They have some reach beyond the school day that a teacher does not. Not that the teacher doesn't try to have it, but the SRO has the reach that maybe makes the child feel more protected during the day, or understanding the position if something happens at night with some of our tougher upbringings that the kids are dealing with. So maybe that's what it is.
Actually, I look forward to the superintendent hearings that we have, and oftentimes Nicole's in on those with me now, because it's such a team atmosphere, and the SRO sitting there. And we're even bringing in PAL now with parent permission. It's not about consequence and purely discipline. It's about what's going on with this kiddo, and how can we, as a team of educators, law enforcement, sometimes probation, PAL, what can we do to try to figure this out to help that kiddo turn around? And I think that we're going to have an even greater presence with the Boost program at PAL this year. They're really striving to get more student involvement. So that's going to give Nicole and I a lot more opportunity for tools. It's just some really great things are happening. And I do put a lot of it back towards Detective Flynn. He's just one of those people. And I'm gonna, if I don't say this too, our probation officer, Danielle Lennox, which sounds very bizarre for a superintendent to be talking about how much they love their probation officer. I think the only people that like her more than I do are the families that ask for her to be involved with their kids. So we've got some really remarkable partnerships. She's always a phone call away. It's just.
The other item is maybe the second person can help with the elementary attendance,
Yeah.
because it expands that presence, puts more of a resource in that bucket. So maybe we'll see some.
Our reports make sure that SRO Flynn has those each month as well, so.
Yeah, but
the
I mean,
other
this is
SRO
going to provide more opportunity.
Absolutely, yes, so we want
more.
them to be involved in
Yeah.
helping with that as well.
So by the way, I just checked, there are 23 police officers employed by Massena. So we're only getting 2 of them for 25% of the population, so technically it's still underserved.
Good point. Okay, so I have a motion to do this. This will come later down on the agenda when we
It does,
approve
yes.
that? Okay, all right, I'll save that until then.
Thank you. Okay, I really wasn't going to talk this much tonight, and I think that's really all that I have.
Okay. Do we have a need for an executive session? Gone. Okay, recommended actions. We've got consent agenda, number 1. Can we get a motion?
So move.
I'll second that. I'd like to have some discussion.
Okay?
Okay.
Let's have it.
All right, so I'm going to try to do this as nice as I can. All right, I have received from Julie Losi several of these things that the point type has got to be like 7. And I don't want to get out a magnifying glass to go over these reports. It looks to me like she has cut and pasted 1, 2, 2.5, and then her signature, which is another half. This could be printed or given electronically to us as 3 pages with like normal type. So this one that I'm holding is Extra Classroom Activity Fund Report. I had a couple of questions about this. So one, I would like to ask that Julie put these out differently so that they are legible and that I can follow them easily. And then the second is there were some questions about some of the funds. Specifically, there was one from class of 2026. There's over $9,000 left in their budget, and I would like to know what we do with, if a graduating class leaves money in their account, what we do with that. Where does it go, and what is it used for?
I'll turn that over to Mallory.
Okay. 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 Sure. Defaults back to what?
Student council.
Student count, what student council? Okay. Okay, so from within the ranks, they decide what they want to do with the money. Okay. I'm just curious if anyone has ever had a conversation with them about maybe leaving it as a reserve for the next graduating class, because we're giving them a reception and we're giving them jumbotrons and stages and all sorts of things that cost a lot of money. So I just maybe pass that along to Julie, that whoever is the class advisor, maybe they could offer that as an option. I mean, if the kids want to do something else with it, that's fine, but it would really benefit the school district, and it would help keep the tradition going that, you know, we've established, because as we're talking, you know, budget times are going to be really hard, and putting on a $30,000 graduation, you know, $9,000 would really help a lot. So maybe the superintendent can pass that along to whoever the class advisor is, and just see if they haven't voted on something, that maybe that might be a possibility, and then maybe offer it as future suggestion for each graduating class if they have extra funds.
You good?
Yep.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor? Motion carries. Other items for action. Approval of revised 2026-27 Board of Education meeting schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Tuesday meetings. Has nothing to do with the subcommittees. We don't post the subcommittees meeting.
No.
Good. All in favor? Motion carries. Approval of District Safety Plan 2026-27.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Approval of District Goals 2026-27.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? I like where we're going with this. 2026-27 Massena school tax rates.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Approval of J.W. Leary Field Experience Trip.
To Washington. So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Approval of second school resource officer contract.
I would like to offer a motion to amend the contract to say on page 8, 11.0, term of agreement, that it be modified to say prorated, beginning on September 1st.
You have a second?
So we're adding a proposition. You're adding something.
It's,
Or before the vote of the.
we have a first, right? We have a motion. We need a second. Okay,
Can-
any,
Can
Pardon?
you repeat? Can you repeat?
So on page 8 of the agreement, under 11.0, term of agreement, the term of this agreement is prorated 1 year commencing September 1st, 2026, and ending on June 30th, 2027.
Okay.
that means it's a reduced rate based on the prorate,
Yeah.
that's, okay. We have a hard copy. Okay,
Language.
okay. We have a first and a second. Any further discussion?
So we're just voting on the amendment, not the entire agreement. Or it's
Voting on-
conditional to this language.
My amendment is to accept the rest of the contract with
With that
this
language.
change.
Okay, thank you. This is.
Okay. All in favor? Against? Motion is defeated.
Motion is,
Defeated.
Yes.
There's not a motion.
Requires 5 votes. We only have 5 people here,
okay.
and this is the chaos that ensues when we're short.
Yep.
It is a
propose-
democratic
I
process.
propose to push it next week, earlier.
Okay. I was out on a bathroom break, sorry. Approval of homeschool student request for special services.
So move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Mr. Burke,
I recommend approval of the action items listed as numbers 1 through 49.
So move.
I'll second.
any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Approval of addendum personnel action item. Was that all of them, or?
Nope, there's an addendum.
Okay, the addendum action items.
So I just need to clarify, and it's been corrected on the official agenda and personnel action, but it may not be on your paper copy. Number 63 is a volunteer, as is number 64. And the dates have all been corrected for number 63 through 77 to start on 8/24/26. There was a typo in the original documentation. So based on those changes, I recommend action items numbers 50 through 84.
Okay, can we get a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Resolution for sick leave allowance number 1.
So moved.
Second.
Now we're getting somewhere. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Resolution sick leave allowance number 2.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. New business items for further agendas.
I have two things, actually. When you mentioned the Boost program, Officer Flynn was speaking to me about that a bit in the high school gym yesterday, and I thought it was an interesting alternative for students who were on the brink of being, or were suspended, that they had to go to this program. That's wonderful. Without being extreme, is there something along those lines that could be done with the elementary school absentee problem? If they reached 18 days or 20 days or something, that they had to do something to make up that work, those days. I think that's a real problem. I mean, it might be just me. My children, they either had to produce blood or vomit, or they were going to school. And they knew that.
Joyce, I think the answer on that one is, it's a great idea in terms of helping them make up their academic work, but it might not erase the absence, because the absence has to be recorded for that day of school.
That's right, for the whole beds thing, yeah.
You know, so
Yes.
for a reporting purpose,
It's
it may
still
not
gonna be
help,
there. Yeah.
but for the ultimate good, you know, and I think those are the two things that we have to consider. That's an interesting idea.
There has to be a consequence. There has to be something. Okay, so,
Second item?
If there's something you could think about where the board could help, we can do the extra work to come and help in the school or visit them. But we care about that, and we don't like the numbers going down.
Well, I'm hopeful that the second SRO can do two things. Can, one, make the connections, and two, parents that
Second
are.
SRO was defeated.
is defeat, it's done.
Well, I'm talking about the future, if we
okay.
do pass it, because then that person might find out that there are some parents who are just not engaged in making their children go to school, and that there might be something that he can do to say, you know, you're derelicting your duty or whatever. I mean, it used to be called truancy. And if you were a parent who was
Yes,
allowing your child to be truant, or encouraging them to be truant because you need a babysitting at home, or you need, you know, whatever the reason is, I'm hopeful that that second SRO can have more of a focus on that elementary grade level and maybe help with absenteeism rates.
I agree with you that a social worker could make a difference.
Nicole, do you have, and you probably have this too, because you've answered all my questions so far, like a graph of the root causes of why they're not coming to school? Like 30% this, 20% this, 5%, whatever.
So when it's excused and we have an absence, we could probably compile that data. We have not, but when they're unexcused, we don't have a reason. So it would be difficult to get that data because you don't have the information from every absence, if that makes sense.
And you can't ask?
We do ask it. Yes, we
But
send.
they don't give an answer, or?
Correct. In
We-
some situations.
We can't compel for them to give an answer. And, you know, Trish talked about truancy, and we used to have a tool called educational neglect, which we could report. That tool is essentially gone. Not having your children attend school is no longer an educational neglect.
So if you have a graph and it's 75%, this is the item, the Mondo bar is 75% versus the next one is 20% or whatever, you know what you go after. You go after the big bar, right? So, and I'm not telling you anything, I know, but we're just talking about this because it is an issue.
For example, if it was because they're sick, maybe there's something we could do preventative to keep them healthy. Maybe we're spreading germs at school. Maybe we should use more washing the hands or more whatever to prevent sickness, for example. If we knew that the reason they're not going to school is
Sure.
sick or
So obviously, sicknesses
what type?
happen, and children are absent, and that's understandable. And you're right, we want you to stay home when you're sick. Just, I want you to really, everyone, think about 18 days, 10% of the time that you're supposed to be here, you're sick. And so looking at our percentages, to think that that high number is sick that often, right? Like, we're not talking about 7, 8 days. We're not even talking about 14 days being sick. We're talking 18 plus days. We have kids here that have been absent 50, 60 days. That's most likely not sickness, right? In most situations. And I will just say, we do have social workers at all 5 buildings now, and they are a big part of this. And so I just wanted to make sure that everyone, you know, as a reminder, we have them at each building, and they are part of the attendance committees at each building. So they are helping with this.
Let me just note, this is kind of a good thing. My wife's parents, my father-in-law and mother-in-law, and I like them both, they live on Highland Avenue, and the back of their house overlooks the playground. And they are very impressed through the whole last winter about bringing kids outdoors. And so I thought that really struck me. I was like, this is cool that we're braving the elements and getting them outside anyways. And so they're very impressed with that is happening. So
Because we all know it's a lot more work to put the mittens and the hat in the winter than it is to keep them inside.
Oh,
But
yes.
going outside makes a difference.
Yes. And Kevin, my second thing was, I had spoken briefly with Ron and Ashley, or Nicole, before the meeting, about our substitutes. Do they receive any training before they sign on to be substitutes? And they mentioned that there is a manual, or the flip thing there, the flip book. So we're just relying on them to read that. And are we sure that they would be well aware what to do if there were a lockdown, a fire drill, an emergency? And I wondered if there was more that we could do for them in the sense that they would feel comfortable in the classroom.
The kids would probably know.
I know they would, but they shouldn't be the ones responsible for it,
Yeah, I
though.
understand.
Yeah, yes. And you mentioned that there had been training before. So I'm just throwing that out there. There's,
And you would favor somebody who has a training or already has a teacher, a retired teacher, before hiring somebody who's brand new. Sometimes we're stuck. You have to take who you can. Not
yeah,
who
but
you-
I have a feeling that you're getting some really high quality people in here, substitute teaching. Some people that know how to. I'm sure. Yeah.
wouldn't hurt to have some required training beforehand, I think. Then they would know not to be on their phones in the back of the classroom, letting the kids run the show, something like that, if that were the case.
Okay, anything else?
I was wondering who brought the books?
Don't know.
Nicole.
Yes, Nicole.
So the ad hoc committee for the realignment of schools, they received this book. It's Reset, and 2 of our board members served on that committee and received the book. It was as a thank you for serving on the committee. And the premise of Reset is really looking at systems change. And so I wanted to make sure each of the board members had a copy. I joked, even if you just read the first 15 to 20 pages, I think you'll be inspired. The author, Dan Heath, uses the phrase, "We're not here to move pebbles, we're here to move boulders." It's hard work, and you have to be open to look at how things are currently done and really inspect them and look at them differently to know how you can be more efficient. And so I'm about halfway through. I find it very practical. It's an easy read, and he uses a lot of examples from different types of companies. So it gets you to think a little bit differently. So I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.
It's got a lean flavor to it. I mean, I've already looked at it, so I've been involved in Lean Six Sigma stuff for a lot of years, and it's got that go and see concept.
Me too. I'm certified Lean Six Sigma.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the special meeting?
Yeah, we have a need for a special meeting, and there was a poll put out. Can we get folks to get into that and answer that?
we could do either any day like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, or even the Monday, Tuesday following. Part of it is there is a litigation that we need to discuss, but we also will have some extra appointments. We don't have all of them finished. We received a resignation of a music teacher. We're going to be interviewing very soon, and we would like to get that individual selected. So that way it may not be a September 1 start, it might be closer to October 1st, but time is really of the essence.
I'm going to be jammed up the following week. I think Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If we go into the 25th, 26th, 27th, I think I'm out. So
if we could do Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, that would be ideal for us.
I can't do Tuesday.
I'm gone all week. I told Ashley that. That's just me.
That's the only day I can't do. I have to
Tuesday.
take my son to the airport.
Okay.
yeah, so we'll just, hopefully everyone gets on the poll and we can figure it out
Okay.
sooner than later.
So maybe what we'll do is we'll just see if people are available Wednesday of next week.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you so much.
Any communications? Did anyone show up while we were talking? Actually, they left. Okay. Motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.